Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm back for another Slim Sports interview. And as always, I'm your host, Jay Slim. And joining me today is a good friend of mine from my college days at FGCU. Got to watch his career blossom and grow to where it is now. And that's playing professional basketball in his rookie year. Already done, average double figures, and is starting things off hot, making some money along the way. I'm talking about 6'3" point guard, Franco Miller Jr. What's going on, man?
Good. Thank you for having me, bro. Thank you for having me. Always good. I remember our time, talking briefly before games or after games and stuff like that at FGCU. So I'm happy to be here and look forward to, answering the questions that you have for me.
Absolutely, man. Got to see the talent that you had, and I was so happy that your last year at FGCU, they really started to use you a lot more effectively, which obviously led into what you did with the Bahamas National Team, and now as a rookie in the professional ranks. And I want fans, viewers that aren't familiar with your name yet to get familiar with it, get to know the journey that you've been on in a quick segment that I like to call Rewind and Recap. So just going to rewind the clock back to your days in the SEC, playing for Ole Miss, got a chance to play at the Power 5 level alongside some very talented players at that in the SEC, and then made your way over to FGCU, where you spent the last 4 years of your collegiate career, went through a coaching change, ended up fighting through adversity and finding your way onto the court. And after your collegiate career, you actually got to compete with the Bahamas national team in the FIBA Americup alongside some really talented NBA players, which we'll get into that here in a moment. And then obviously just wrapped up your first year in the pros playing for Fibwi Palma as a rookie where you averaged double figures. So quite a journey you've been on over the past decade, pretty much. What was this first year in the pros like for you, and how did it compare to, playing college ball over the past few years?
I think it was very different. Obviously, I was very grateful for the opportunity to be able to, do something that I love, so far away. And, just comparing it to college life, it just is a culture shock. I feel like the language is different. I was playing in Spain. The language is different. They do things a lot differently. But, I definitely embrace the culture and, they also embrace me as well. And, so it was definitely a very good learning experience for me, learning the Spain game and learning, their tricks of the trade. And, every country has different ways that they play the game of basketball, so it's always interesting to go to different places and, and see how they think the game and just learn from them and, pick different things from their, culture to add to my game to try to, enhance my play and, just get better as the years go on.
Yeah, and you guys ended up going 17-9 in regular season action. Went into the postseason, had some good wins in the playoffs, and the team overall just a lot of success in your rookie year. You got to learn some from some great professional veterans, a great coaching staff, and you were able to contribute right off the bat, like I keep mentioning. What was it that made this team so successful, and how would you say your playing style really fit into the success that you guys had?
I think, we were a group that, just control the things that we could have controlled, which is really just our mindset and, handling adversity well. Obviously, people know that, throughout the season is always a journey. Every journey is different and, there's always ups, there's always downs, there's always, things that you go through, but it's just staying focused and, coming together for a common goal and trying to achieve a championship, which we ultimately did in the end. But it's just making the sacrifices for each other and understanding that that not everything is personal and playing the game of basketball. So we just you know came together and decided what it is that we wanted to do as a group, and we tried our best to execute that, and we did that to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, and obviously able to go on a run in the postseason, had some great wins in the playoffs, and it's crazy because, like I mentioned before, FGCU, Ole Miss, you had to fight through adversity to get time on the court. You went through a coaching change during your time at FGCU, where the previous head coach didn't really use you a whole lot. Thankfully, Coach Chambers, your last year at FGCU, started to see the potential that you had and got you a lot more time on the court to where you guys were able to go off beat USC first game of the year, one of those seasons, and obviously you ended up going on and competing with the Bahamas national team to play alongside some really talented NBA players. How would you say those experiences, those that last year pretty much before going to the pros to play your rookie year, how would you say that led into the success that you've been already had early on in your professional career?
at FGCU was really just, staying level-headed and just understanding that, controlling the things that you can control are just what it is that is going to get you on the floor. I feel like a lot of times when things don't go your way or things you feel aren't the way they're supposed to be, you kind of get down, you kind of just try to start negative self-talk, you try to say, all right, well, maybe this isn't for me. And, something that I just always tried to keep in mind is that, whatever comes my way, I'm able to accept it. I'm able to continue pushing and continue trying to fight for what it is that I want. And I think, that mindset is what helped me to propel from not playing at all and not getting the minutes that I want and not whatever to being used a little bit and then to eventually going to the Bahamas scene where, now I have a better opportunity and I'm in a better position. So, the things that I did at FGCU, they just translate because, I'm used to having to fight. I'm used to diversity. I'm used to all of those things. So when I get into an environment that, maybe I don't have to fight as hard or I don't have to, do those things, then it's kind of different. And it makes it, it takes a lot of load off and it lets you, play your game and it lets you, play confidently. It lets you, blossom and show the type of game that you really have because you don't have that, added pressure of, man, maybe I get something out the game here, or maybe I play 2 minutes tonight, or maybe I don't even get in at all. Those things are definitely things that affect a lot of basketball players, like the mental part of it. So I think, just my last year was a way to just train my mentality and to train my mental part of the game.
Yeah, and that adversity that you went through really helped you fine tune your game and just really elevate yourself to another level to where you could make a whole lot of highlights this past season in your first year in the pros. And I want to talk about some of those highlights in a segment that I like to call Make That Play, where I went through Synergy. I looked through every single made basket you had, and I put together my list of what I feel like were your top three plays from this past season. But obviously, I'm just a stats guy. I'm just a fan in the stands. You're the one actually on the floor doing what you do best. So, is there a particular play that you feel like was your best one from this past season?
Uh, I don't know. No, I don't really think there is like a favorite play. I mean, I think every game is different. Every game has a different feel. Every game is going to be something favorite. When you sit back and you think about what I did for the game, like, oh, maybe I should have did this, maybe I should have did that. But no, I don't really have like a favorite play or like a favorite. I think they're all good. Get in the bucket is always nice.
Oh yeah, well I'll tell you my favorite three right here. And the first one, going against, and I apologize if I mispronounce the team's names on this, Tarragona. Ended up hitting a great crossover into a spin move, right into a double team where you stepped through for a nice little basket, drew the foul as well for an and one to go to the line, get a 3-point play for your team. Showed off the athleticism at a high level there. Number two, you ended up, there was a whole lot of people trying to save the ball from going out of bounds in this game. Actually ended up throwing it right in your direction. You took it, went right down the baseline, and help defender came over to try to block the shot. You hit a nice little circus shot up and under, right up in for an easy score there. And then number three, Steal and Slam is what I have this titled, going against Gandia, I believe their name is, where you ended up reading the passing lane perfectly, intercepted that pass, and took it coast to coast all the way down the floor for a nice little dunk right there to get some momentum for your team. And obviously you have a high level of experience between playing in college and that Bahamas national team, like I keep mentioning. And that national team had some incredible players like Buddy Hield, DeAndre Ayton, Eric Gordon, Klay Thompson practiced with you guys as well, was a part of that team. Obviously, elite, the best of the best, because they're playing in the NBA and you're getting to learn from them, kind of pick their brains and also compete on the court and see, all right, if I'm able to do this against these level athletes, I can sure as heck do it in the pros overseas. So, what would you say that experience was like overall, and what did it teach you going into the pros?
It definitely was something that taught me a lot about basketball, and not more so much X's and O's, but just how to act like a professional, how to move like a professional, talk like a professional. I think that those are some things that are overlooked, and being around those guys and watching their pregame routines, what they do after games, how they eat, how they interact with people, interacting with different things, and just learning as much as I can from that environment. Obviously being a part of the NBA or something even close to that is definitely, every kid's dream, and just to be around guys that I know that are on that level and be able to compete with them and not only compete, but hold my own and maybe even sometimes, being the best player on the floor with those guys it was something that, made me feel like, all right, well, maybe what I went through my 3 or 4 years in college was something that was worth it. So it was definitely a great experience learning from those guys and being able to play with them. And especially my favorite moment was definitely Klay Thompson was on my team, I think for a 1 day in the whole practice, and we won every drill. So that was pretty cool. He passed me the ball, I hit a three. And yeah, I'll never forget that for sure.
That's awesome, man. Klay Thompson definitely going to end up being a Hall of Famer, and him as well as all of the other guys that have helped you along the way to get to where you are today. You have put in the grind day in, day out, and that's why you're able to put up some great numbers in your rookie year in the pros. 10.5 points, 3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game, where you had some incredible outings throughout the season. 24 points and 6 rebounds on March 1st, had 21 points and 5 rebounds in early November, and then a season high 31 points with 6 assists in early January, showing off that point guard ability to facilitate as well as score at a high level. How long would you say it really took for you to find your rhythm? Because I know the first couple games you had 2 points, and then I believe it was 7 or 8 points in that second game where you were trying to find your stride, and then actually ended up going on, I believe it was, yeah, 4 straight games where you had double figure outings.
Yeah, I think it's just, learning the game. I think, in Spain, the game is definitely very different. They think the game differently, they play the game differently. So it was really just getting a feel and understanding that, what it is that I need to do to be successful in the league and what it is that my team needs as well. Those things definitely play a part. But I think adjusting to it wasn't something that was, completely hard just based off, I'm athletic enough, I have a, good IQ, I feel. So, learning the game and learning the scenarios and filling the moments out was definitely something that I don't think it took me very long to catch on to, but it's something that everybody has to go through.
Yeah, and to be able to average double figures in your rookie year, obviously rookies they come in and you're trying to learn the professional lifestyle altogether. And obviously you going to Spain, I believe you said, where the language barrier, you're trying to learn the way of life over there just as a human being. uh, Obviously you're trying to figure out what your role is right off the bat, and you were able to take a very big role from the start. So how would you say, from as far as how your role grew and adapted throughout the season, how would you describe that for this past season?
I think they went when the team brought me in, they brought me in, to just play my game and to do the things that, I'm capable of doing. I think I'm a player that's not really great at one thing. I feel like I'm somebody that's good at multiple things. So, just being able to put me in different situations and, I guess guarding the best players on the floor and doing things like that are the things that, kind of separated me and put me on the floor, and I play very hard and I'm never going to back down from a challenge, and I'm always want to guard the best player on the team. Those are conversations that we had before I even got there, and it was just getting there and then putting the pen to paper and actually just doing what it is and doing my job. So I wasn't really worried about my role. I feel like college and the pros are kind of different, because you can have a lot more harder conversations and be a lot more straightforward with certain things. So I just accepted my role and did the things that it is that was my job, basically.
Absolutely, man. And obviously year one is wrapped up for you. Your rookie year has come to an end. Now you're getting ready for year two, going back to the pros, playing overseas or wherever you end up at. What are your biggest takeaways from this season to where you can now enter year two with a little bit more confidence, a little bit more swagger to your game, where you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Let's go get a championship.
Yeah, I think it's just learning when to pick my spots and when not to pick my spots. I feel like throughout the year sometimes I didn't really understand the situations of certain games, and I feel like it cost us a couple games. And personally, just continuing to get better, continuing to work on my shot, continuing to just elevate my game. I love working out. I love working on my game. I want to be the best player that I can be. So there's always something to work on. And I averaged 10 points as a rookie, but personally and truly, I felt like maybe I could average 15. So it just having the season that I've had, which was an okay season, it made me hungry for more and to just want to do more. And just because I know that now that I can do it. The past 4 years, like I haven't really been able to fully put my foot forward and fully, what I mean, have a season where like I have a big role on the team and I'm playing the minutes and I'm guarding the best players. So I think this year was definitely an eye opener for me in terms of like, all right, yeah, like I know that I can do it, which I knew all along, but it's just I was never given the full opportunity to really showcase my talent.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in my mind you're going to be able to do that next year. Grow your points per game, grow your assists per game, go off, win a championship. Because I know what Franco Miller does, and that is win. You have that winning mentality. You've been such an underrated player to where I remember when I did stats for you, whenever you would come in, me and my friend Alex, we would look at each other and we go, "It's Franco time." I kid you not, that's word for word what I said. I apologize because it
It's
sounds
okay.
corny, but we were excited for you because we knew what you could do, and that's why I wanted so badly to get you on the podcast so we can, get your name out there even more. Because you've had such a great story to tell, and I'm always trying to find more players to get on to tell their story to get their name out there, and that's exactly why I have this segment that I like to call "Who's Up Next," where you can actually give me some recommendations of players to have on the podcast, get their stories out there as well, whether it's from the college ranks, professional ranks, wherever you know them from. There is one rule for you, though. Whoever you recommend, I do need your help in getting them on. So I need your help reaching out to them so I can make sure they get on the podcast and tell their stories. So, Franco, who are some names that come to your mind as far as getting them on the podcast?
Let me think. I would say maybe Zach Anderson. I think that's a very good answer. Yeah, Zach or yeah, I'm not sure. Zach Anderson would be my answer for sure. Zach.
Oh yeah, he just had a great year at George Mason. Absolutely incredible player when he was at FGCU. Got to see him grow as well. Now he's looking to go into the pros for his rookie year, that just like you just wrapped up. So that's a great name for who's up next. And now we got to talk about what's next for yourself. Obviously, we talked about how you want to grow your game even more going into next season, to where you can go off and win a championship at the professional level. Where are you at right now as far as continuing your career? Where are you and your agent at as far as finding you the next spot, and how are you looking to really grow your game this offseason?
Well, currently, right now, I don't have like an agent. Like, I'm not signed with an agency. I've worked with a couple people that have looked out for me and thankfully found me a job, which was my last job. So right now the table is just open for me. Right now, I'm just focused on getting my body ready, preparing. Focusing on just getting better and enjoying my summer. And then once my phone rings and I get the call. We just like, sit down and we talk and go from there. But as of right now, what's next is just staying focused on being ready, staying in shape, and enjoying my time with family and enjoying the fruits of my labor from the last 9 months. So
There you go, man. Definitely excited for you. Definitely happy for you that you're able to do this at the level that you've been dreaming of doing it. Obviously, your entire life, every player wants to go off and play in the pros. So I'm beyond excited that you get to tell your story. And after next year, I'll have you back on and we'll talk about that feeling of winning a championship, you being MVP, all that stuff. Because my predictions are known to come true on this podcast. I do want to point that out. So we'll see what happens in the next year or so. But absolutely excited to have had you on, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on this podcast with me.
no problem, man. No problem.